Hey guys, it's Chase again. I'm here to recap the final of the opening game of the Copa America, Colombia and the United States. Colombia ended up winning the game 2-0. Fresh off of it, I can't say that I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be a stretch for us to get points out of this match in the first place. I expected Colombia to come out and play better than they actually did. I thought really that Colombia wasn't as... I know they're a counter-attacking team, but they had some opportunities. I guess it really could have been like 3-0, maybe more, but I think 3-0 would have been fair. I can't remember who had it, but they had a shot off the crossbar late in the game. I think 80 minutes on. They could have made it 3-0. I can't remember what Colombian player it was. But I'm not. I mean, it sucks to lose, but it wasn't an amazing performance by the Team USA, but it was a better than I think I expected in some ways. I mean, I know I had commented on that I felt better coming into this tournament than I did before because of the results against Bolivia and Ecuador and Puerto Rico, and the recent play had been better than before, but still, Colombia is ranked third in the world, so it was a much more difficult opponent than any of the teams we had just played. So I was doubtful to begin with. But other than a blown coverage on a set piece and a somewhat questionable handball given for a penalty, this team had some chances. That you had the header that got kicked off the goal line. You had Dempsey's free kick that was solid. Ospina had to have a really good save on that occasion, and I thought that they had a more attacking style, more rushes up in our zone than I was expecting. Colombia did start getting a lot more possession in the second half. They're not really a possession team. They're a counter-attacking team. They'll sit back and they'll let you come at them, and then they'll just jump you on the counter-attack, and they did it quite a few times. And be interesting to see going forward whether or not James Rodriguez will be able to continue on. He had that an issue with his shoulder, and they were commenting on the broadcast that maybe he dislocated his shoulder, and they were trying to pop it back into place. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't read any of the post-game or any of the updates after the game. I was more encouraged by this than I think maybe some fans will see it as disappointing. I really think that you were kind of, I just think a draw would have been a lot to ask for this team. This team hasn't come that far yet. It puts more pressure on the other two games, but they kept reiterating over and over again on the broadcast, like, fate for a team that loses its opening match is going to usually exit early, and yes, I mean, they can continue to reiterate the history over and over and over again, but I think the Costa Rica and the Paraguay games are very winnable, and I would say that tomorrow we're going to have to pay attention to the Costa Rica Paraguay game tomorrow, which is on Fox, by the way, which is interesting. It's good that they're putting soccer on their main network, which is cool. I think we're probably hoping for a draw in that one. I would say we'll go for a Paraguay win, but just in case they were able to sneak another result against Colombia, which I doubt, then you'd want them to just have a draw. But if Paraguay could win and not get any points the rest of the way, lose to us and then lose to Colombia, then maybe you'd like that, because Costa Rica I think I see as the other threat to move on past the group stage. You would want them to either draw or lose tomorrow, and if like I said, if Paraguay wins, then you'd have to have them lose the other two results, because then it goes down to goal differential, which right now we're -2, and I don't know how much we're going to score in the other two fixtures. So not surprised, and I'm not incredibly discouraged. It's not a game to write home about. I wouldn't say remember that game against Colombia where we really turned it around. Like, no, I felt like there was encouraging signs here and there, but we weren't outplayed. I think that's the one thing you really have to chalk down, is that this team was not outplayed that badly. There were some breaks, and you saw the skill of this side. And obviously, I think clearly the skill is higher for Colombia. I think we knew that going forward. But in terms of outright play, I felt like the U.S. held their own, and I see how they could possibly get through this group still. I guess the way we looked at it, or the way that I looked at it, and I did some looking into, I guess if we were to finish second in the group, we would still have to play Brazil in the quarter, which, it's still cool. It'd be still cool to go and play them. I don't think we'd fare well, but this tournament was always going to be difficult. I don't know how anybody. I don't think anybody had. They were overestimating this team, or thinking that this team was going to come in because they won 3 friendlies in a row and think they were going to steal the whole show. We knew that they were probably going to have either a group exit or an early exit in the knockout stage. Anything more than that would be very unexpected and very surprising. But I think going forward, I think you could still get through I think getting through the group stage would be an accomplishment. Not an easy group to play in. Costa Rica did play well in the last World Cup. Paraguay's no slouch. I think it's the worst team out of the group, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to come out and play their hardest. This is an important tournament, I think, to everyone involved. Anybody that stood out? Not really. I don't think anybody stood out. I think Alexi Lalas had the same thought. I'm not as pessimistic as he is. He's just a grumpy man. He's just a grumpy man in general. I don't know what to think of Alexi Lalas sometimes. I don't know if he'll ever be satisfied by any performance that the U.S. has, or in general. They brought on. They used all. Klinsmann used all 3 of his substitutions: Pulisic, Nagbe, and Zusi. Anybody expecting Pulisic and Nagbe to come off the bench and just light it up? It doesn't work like that. It's going to take time. Nagbe hasn't been on the U.S. on the men's team for very long, and Pulisic's 17 years old. You can see glimpses and flashes of skill and brilliance, but it's going to take time for these guys to get going. I mean, still very raw talent in Pulisic, and Nagbe, very good, but still needs to get his feet under him. He hasn't played with any of these guys very long. So it's going to take some time for them to come through, but maybe you see them, after getting a dose of the action tonight, step out big and come up in a big way against Costa Rica or Paraguay. So not necessarily anything coming out of tonight. I guess really the back four held their own. I thought they were decent. Cameron had his blown cover on Zabata, however you say it. who had the first goal. I thought we had a chance until the obviously the James Rodriguez penalty. In terms of the call on Yedlin, I don't, he did have his hand stuck out. It's a tough call. Initially I was like, wow, that's a penalty all day, and then you start looking at it like, wow, that's tough to call because he really wasn't. He had his hand out. He could have brought his hand in. I don't know. It's tough, but at the end of the day, the referee calls it. I don't think he was wrong for calling it. It's a tough penalty to take. Obviously, that's a gut punch before the end of the half. After conceding the early goal, to be able to kind of hold your own and keep them from scoring again, to just let it let one in through a penalty, through a tough call. That's hard to take. That's why I think you saw them come out kind of flat in the beginning of the second half, and they started to pick it up. And I think the substitutions did help them pick up the energy. It just didn't amount to a whole lot of chances in terms of Pulisic and Nagby themselves. Specifically, they didn't have a whole lot to say about the end result in the second half after they came off. So it was a tough call, but at the end of the day, yeah, you can't put a referee in that position. You put him in a position, you're gonna have to make a call, and he made a call. And Rodriguez puts it in and pretty easily. Other than that, I like I said, I don't know if anybody really stood out. I don't know if anybody had a terrible game. Everybody keeps kind of picking on Bradley, and he didn't have a great night. But who else would you put in there? Who would you put in there in place of him? He's such a key cog in the middle of that formation that I just feel like it'd be tough to take him out, and then who would you put underneath? I know they in another moment, I think in the Ecuador game, or maybe it was in the Bolivia game, they kind of pushed him further up and had somebody playing behind him, and kind of, I don't know, it was almost, I don't know what formation that they were playing with, but I don't know. It's tough to speculate when after a loss, you want to change everything, or you want to change too many things, and but I think that team that showed up tonight could go and win against Paraguay and Costa Rica. So I'm hopeful, and not a great result, not what we were hoping for, but again, I'm not surprised at the end result. Obviously, a goal would have been nice to peel one back, keep the goal differential down, and just have something to build upon in terms of goals-wise. But not the case tonight. So I'll be back to preview the matchup on Tuesday night, hopefully, against Paraguay, and then, against Costa Rica, and then later against Paraguay. So let me know your thoughts, comments, and that'd be great. And I'll see you guys soon.